For the past year, I've been actively looking at apartments in the area which I currently live. And in this short period, I've been to a lot of different apartment viewings, and I started noticing a trend. There is not a lot of apartments for sale, and when a new apartment shows up, it is pretty much always bought the day after the first viewing, meaning that there's a lot of interest in these types of apartments. About 2 weeks ago, I got my hands on an apartment, and in this video I'm going to be showing you exactly what it looks like and be telling you all about my plans for it. Let's start the only way it makes sense, at the beginning. This whole thing started about a year ago and began with a conversation that I had with a good friend about different types of investments. At this point, I'd only invested in index funds, stocks, and a little bit of cryptocurrency. This was when my friend introduced me to real estate, which was basically something that I knew nothing about at the time. Fast forward a couple of months, I contacted a bank in regards to applying for a loan, and I'll explain a little more in detail later in this video what exactly happened. After having met with the bank and gotten a loan, I was ready to start looking for apartments, but I didn't really know what I was looking for in regards to size, location, looks, and interior. Therefore, I got started by going to a lot of different apartment viewings in order to get a sense of what was actually for sale on the market, and I quickly developed a preference for a certain type of apartment. This gave me a sense of what you actually could get for the money at the different price points, and this is essential to know if you want to know whether or not you're overpaying or not. This does of course depend completely on the location of the apartment, but it helps to do a little research beforehand instead of just buying the first apartment that you come across. I continued going to apartment viewings, and at one point I went to new apartments multiple times a week while I was researching more about real estate and what's actually attractive for the people that's going to rent your apartment, like for example close proximity to grocery stores, the placement or location in the center of a city, traffic noise. These are just some of the things that I had to keep in mind while searching for apartments. This part of the process took a pretty long time since I could not seem to find an apartment that had what I was looking for within the budget of the loan, and therefore I had to lower my expectations a bit in order to adjust to what was actually for sale on the market. In reality, there was a lot of interest in the apartments that I was looking at, and basically all of them was sold the day after the first viewing, which meant that I was expecting way too much in comparison to the other buyers, and therefore had to adapt. If not, I would probably never ended up buying an apartment because I would never find any one of them good enough. In total, I only ended up bidding on 2 separate apartments, and they were pretty much the same but in different locations. The first apartment really got my attention, and I therefore decided that I wanted to bid on it. But since this was my first ever bidding war, I was not really prepared for the intensity of it, and I felt as though I was not in full control, and I therefore decided to stop bidding. because I was simply unsure of how much money I was really willing to spend on it. The second time around, it was a really similar apartment and therefore also caught my attention. This time I was a little more prepared, and beforehand I'd set a maximum limit to what I was actually willing to bid. And this helped when it came to keeping a cool head. After having bid, a couple of minutes went by and I was really surprised when the real estate agent called me and told me that I was the new owner of the apartment. After contacting the bank and informing them about the purchase, the real estate agent set up a meeting in order to get all the necessary sales contract papers signed. And the next thing was to sign a bunch of papers from the bank regarding the loan and the payment plan. After about a week later, it was time for me to take over the apartment, and I sat down with the seller in order to sign the rest of the remaining papers in order for me to take over the apartment and receive the keys. And this brings us to the present. So let me show you what the apartment looks like.
The first thing you see when you open the door to the apartment is the living room, but for the sake of this video, let's start with the bathroom. To the right of the entrance we have the bathroom, and it has a toilet, a sink and a shower. And it's not the biggest bathroom in the world, but it has the most essential things. In the living room we have a huge sofa, a table and a bed on top of the sofa, which is a very nice solution for small apartments like this one. And it gives us the opportunity to take advantage of the small space. In the kitchen we have a foldable table for when you're going to eat breakfast. We also have a refrigerator and freezer combo. The kitchen itself has a lot of cabinets, which is very nice. We also have an oven and a very nice sink.
There's really not a lot of stuff that I plan to do with the apartment in the near future, but there are some things. Like for example in the bathroom. Here I'm going to be placing a shower cabin. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. It's not enough space for that. But actually it's just enough space to get a shower inside, but it's going to be an extremely tight fit. And we're going to have to move the sink to the left side. Other than that, I'm going to get my hands on some furniture. And as you can see, I've already got my hands on a TV and a TV table. And blinds for the windows, which you can see over here. This was all bought relatively cheap on Finn, and the rest of the things that you can see in the apartment, like the sofa behind me, came included with the price. Well, probably both. The reason I bought this apartment in the first place is first and foremost because I am going to be renting it out, especially in the beginning. But it's pretty likely that I'm going to live here myself when I eventually move out of the place which I currently live. I'm not going to be talking a lot about investments in this video, but this is an apartment that I'm hopefully going to be owning for a good amount of years. That's at least the plan. And this automatically makes it a very long-term investment. And I wanted to get into real estate investing because of the simple fact that people will always need a place to live. You're also guaranteed yearly returns as long as the apartment is rented. As mentioned, this is a long-term investment and I do not expect huge and exponential returns. I bought this apartment for just under 1.2 million Norwegian kroners, which is equivalent to $113,600. And as a complete beginner, I'm slowly realizing how much money this actually is. Since the apartment is 23 square meters, this means that the price per square meter is 52,000 Norwegian kroners or $4,900.
Enough talking, let's crunch some numbers. The numbers used in this calculation are not accurate and are only based on a prediction. This is an example meant to simulate what the equation might look like and the process of doing it. First we need to decide how much the apartment is going to be rented for, and 8,000 Norwegian kroners is a reasonable price. This is the amount of money you receive every month from your tenant, but we can't forget the expenses. Since this is an apartment which I'm not going to be living in myself while it's being rented out, we have to pay 22% of the profit to taxes.
This apartment has a shared cost of 2,000 Norwegian kroners. This is a specific amount of money which all of the apartment owners pay every month. And as we mentioned earlier, we have to pay 22% of the profit to taxes, but this shared cost is not a part of the profit, so therefore we can subtract this from the equation. 8,000 minus 2,000 equals 6,000. 6,000 times 0.22 equals 1,320. When we have calculated the amount of money which we have to pay in taxes, we can find out how much of the original amount is left to pay the loan. 8,000 minus 1,320 minus 2,000 equals 4,680. 4,680 minus 5,500 equals negative 820. Over a period of 30 years, this will add up to a total of 295,200 Norwegian kroners, since we have spent roughly 300,000 Norwegian kroners on the apartment in total over a period of 30 years, and the apartment is worth 1.2 million Norwegian kroners. This means that if we don't include any other expenses, we are left with a profit of 900,000 Norwegian kroners. As mentioned, this is a rough estimate, and the final profit will probably not look anything like this number, whether if it's more or less. Well, truth is that I would never been able to buy this apartment if it was not for my parents. I tried going to the bank alone myself and apply for a loan, but this was unacceptable since I'm only an apprentice and don't have the income to handle the loan, meaning that I would have to wait an additional 2 years in order to become a full-fledged electrician and then apply for a loan. But if my parents wanted to help, this was a completely different scenario, since they were no longer just calculating with my income alone. Therefore, it was actually possible for me to get a loan with my parents as surety. As a result, the bank offered me a loan, meaning that I could go out and buy whatever apartment that I wanted within the budget of the loan. So, thank you. When I first started considering investing in real estate, I literally thought that this was a gold mine, and I'm not exaggerating. This is mostly because I used my own numbers, fictive numbers, to do the rough calculations, like for example price of apartment, rental costs, etc. and then taxes. And this made the whole equation look a lot more attractive than it actually was in reality. This is something that took me a while to realize, especially when I saw that I would not be able to achieve a positive cash flow with realistic numbers. I was so caught up in the fictive, unrealistically good numbers that got me interested in real estate in the first place. So this came sort of like a surprise. However, this did not make me lose interest in real estate. I just had to get over the fact that it was not all sunshine and rainbows. At the end of the day, I still think that real estate is a solid thing to invest in, even though it did not meet my unrealistic expectations for it. But I've decided that I want to invest in it either way. The interesting thing about real estate is that it's usually a very long-term investment, making it very hard to foresee the future and the result of the investment. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the future brings. And as always, I hope this video was educational in some way or another and that you did enjoy watching it. And I'll see you in the next one.